Hello again, everyone. We are back for another edition of our prep preview videos on high school football. I'm Joe Deacon, and again with me, back after a one-week hiatus, is Randy Kindred, sports editor. Randy, how was your week off?
Yeah, it was a little bit eventful. My daughter got married, so other than that, it was just pretty run-of-the-mill.
So you weren't out playing golf in Hawaii or anything?
No, I wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, we're already to week 6 now, and it's amazing. We're down. Teams are really going to have to make playoff push, and our first match has 2 teams in that same situation. It's a intercity matchup with Bloomington going over to Normal West for the Wildcats homecoming game.
Yeah. West, obviously, it's a must-win for them, being 4 losses already, and Bloomington could really help their cause. They're 3-2 at this point. They could really help their case if they could get a win in this game and give them a little margin for error as they go down the stretch. But it probably will be a track meet type game with a lot of points, and could be another long game.
Yeah, both teams have really shown some prolific offenses. Obviously, West with Genesis Force in the backfield has been really dynamic, and Bloomington has the running back tandem of Kerry Lockhart and Dominique Cradell, both are doing well. And they passed actually the ball last week in their loss to Peoria.
Yeah. That Peoria game was probably good preparation for them for playing West, because the West likes to get out and get going as well. Sorry about that. The phone rang.
Yeah, actually, I talked to Coach Joe Walters from Bloomington just yesterday, and he was talking about how many positives, even though they got beat by a #1 team in the state, how many positives they saw from that. Their offensive line protected quarterback Colton Sandage a lot better, and their defense saw some things they wanted to do. So I think they're going into this game really positive.
Yeah, and I think it'll be important for them, I think, to get off to a good start, and you don't want to get behind a team like West, who is so fast-paced and can, if they jump on you early, it makes it tough to play catch-up against them. So I think the first quarter could be pretty important in this game.
Indeed. As we move on, the other Unit 5 team in action, the Big 12 team, is Normal Community. They get a non-conference game up at LincolnWay West, and that's a tilt of 2 ranked teams in Class 7A.
Yeah, that should be a really good game. Normal Community is ranked 7th, and I think Lincoln-Way West is 8th. And Lincoln-Way West is 4-1, just like Normal, and their only loss was last week to Homewood Flossmoor, who's ranked 2nd in 8A. So, and it was a 27-11 game, so it wasn't like they were totally blown out. So I think this is a good game for the Ironmen. I mean, it's going to be like a playoff game. It's the kind of team that they would face in the playoffs, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure Coach Temples is really looking forward to this one. Is telling his guys this is the type of competition you're going to have to be ready to prepare you against.
Yeah, and especially traveling up there, I think that's probably a good preparation too, because if you get in the playoffs and you have to go on the road like that, it's kind of a dry run for them, and they can kind of find out some things that maybe they need to work on too.
Taking a look over now at Central Catholic, everyone kind of got right off the first week when they lost to TriValley. Everyone was kind of a little concerned right off the bat, but they've actually played pretty well now, and they're atop the Corn Belt Conference, and they're going to be hosting IVC this week.
Yeah, they've won 4 in a row since that game against TriValley, and they've kind of won them in different ways. They had to rally up at LaSalle, Peru a couple of weeks ago. Last week they scored in the last minute to beat Pontiac. They had a pretty lopsided win in between there against Olympia, but they seem to have found some answers, I think, from what they were struggling with early. And Max Mays has been throwing the ball well, and they've got a top flight receiver in Bobby Brady. And another key for them this week will be Sam Heaton, who has been out the last 2 games with an injury, is going to be back. And Mike Mays told me he's kind of the quarterback of the defense for them. He makes sure they're aligned correctly, that kind of thing. So that should give them a boost in this game.
Yeah, IVC has kind of been down the past couple of years in the Corn Belt, but they're not a pushover this year. I mean, they played Muhammad Seymour to a 14-7 game last week, so the Saints will still have to be on their toes.
Yeah, that's right. Muhammad is a team that the Saints are tied to top the league with right now, and that probably opened some eyes when they saw that IVC took them to 14-7 and took them right down the wire last week. So. I don't think there'll be any trouble getting their attention going into this one.
No doubt. U-High, it's been a little bit of a tough season for Coach Trevor Von B in his first year, and they're gonna try and avoid elimination. They're going to Olympia, and the Spartans have kind of struggled this year too.
Yeah. The U-High is coming off a game where they just barely had the ball in that especially in the second half. It sounded like against Prairie Central. Prairie Central just chewed the clock up, and there weren't many opportunities for U-High to get their hands on the ball. So I'm sure they're looking to be able to sustain some drives in this game and kind of maybe try to turn the tables on that instead of being the ones on the opposite end. And Olympia, when I covered them a couple of weeks ago, they've got a running back, Matthew Cooksey, who's got some ability. He's got right around 400 yards this year, and I saw where he even threw a touchdown pass last week. Mm-hmm. So they've got some things offensively that can work, I think. So this could be a pretty entertaining game, I think.
Yeah. Obviously, we look over back to the Heart of Illinois Conference, the large division. Everyone is keeping their eye on TriValley and DMAC as they head toward that possible Week 9 showdown, the top two teams in Class 2A. This week, TriValley's going to try and avoid an obstacle. They've got EPG coming in. So
yeah, and EPG, their only loss is to DMAC so far. I think it was 40-20 a couple of weeks ago, and so they're a team that could give TriValley some problems, and I'm sure Josh Roop, the coach at TriValley, has emphasized. Even though they've outscored their opponents like 208-15, I think they still need to focus in and this is not a pushover team that they're going to be facing.
Yeah. Meanwhile, DMAC, they're going to be home for Fieldcrest. Fieldcrest has kind of had a tough go this year, and so DMAC is obviously doesn't want to look too far beyond any opponent, but they don't. Yeah,
Fieldcrest they had a lot of new faces this year. They'd had some guys that had played a lot of varsity football the last few years, and so they've had to fill some holes. And whereas DMAC is kind of in a position that Fieldcrest was in a couple of years ago, where they've got a lot of veteran players and pretty good depth, and so that'll be a tough task for Fieldcrest, I think.
Yeah, and just looking at a couple of, we mentioned both Mahomet and Prairie Central earlier. That's the other key game of note in the Corn Belt this week, with Mahomet, like you said, tied with the Saints atop the league.
Yeah, and I think for Mahomet, a key will probably be to Billy Prince, the quarterback for Prairie Central, seems to be having a pretty good year, and he's pretty versatile, and that was a big part of them being able to control the clock, I think, last week against U-High. So a lot will depend on how well Mahomet's defense can keep them from sustaining those long drives, I think.
Indeed. And we're down to the final third of the season.
It's amazing. It's gone so fast.
The playoffs will be here before you know it, and then we'll be back with more shows to talk about it.
The older I get, the faster the seasons go.
It's amazing. It's crazy. So, all right, well, that's going to do it. As always, be sure to watch all our coverage online with score updates and then stories after the fact. And our Saturday section will have all the coverage you need. Thanks.